In 2011, Philip Hammond proposed raising the motorway speed limit from 70 miles per hour to 80.
Fans of Top Gear will know we have always been fans of speed, until this happened to our very own Richard Hammond.
In 1965, with the introduction of motorways, the speed limit rose to 70 miles per hour and has remained there ever since.
Except for when it was temporarily reduced during the 1973 oil crisis to encourage fuel economy.
The problem with speed, as Richard Hammond found out, is that the faster you go, the more likely you are to crash. It's hardly a rocket science. As seen by the red line in this graph, road accidents have fallen dramatically over the years. Due to improved car safety, better infrastructure, and better road safety regulations.
So, 80 miles per hour. Let's investigate.
When Philip Hammond introduced the plans to raise the speed limit on motorways, he said the benefit to the UK would be £1 billion. Now you might be surprised by this, but it turns out that politician Philip Hammond was being economical with the truth. We broke down the figures as follows. Okay, so because we think that the private sector are better equipped to spend cash in the economy than the government, we are not including the increased tax intake in these figures. So, the real figure is £287 million, which is the added value to the UK economy. How about the costs associated with raising motorway limit to 80 miles per hour?
To get an idea of the likely loss of lives, we look into the work of the Mick Jagger of Road Traffic Studies, Professor Rune Elvik, and more precisely his statistical model to determine the rise in fatal accidents. Using this model, adapted for UK variables, Elvik has predicted that a rise to 80 miles per hour would cause 25 more deaths and more than 100 serious injuries annually. Do you remember Fight Club?
First rule, James. First rule, we are not supposed to talk about the Fight Club.
No, just the part about how companies put a value on life.
Take the number of vehicles in the field, A, multiply it by the probable rate of failure, B, then multiply the result by the average out-of-court settlement, C, A.
This calculation is known as the calculus of negligence and is used by insurance companies to calculate lost utility. Controversial as it may seem, policymakers use a similar principle to put a value on life to economically allocate resources. As economics Nobel Prize winner Milton Friedman put it,
nobody can accept the principle that an infinite value should be put on an individual life.
How is a value put on life?
The Department of Transport values life based on three calculations: lost output, medical costs, and human costs.
I get the first two, but what's human cost?
It's based on people's willingness to pay to reduce the risk of death or injury. Let me explain.
Whoa, that looks like something out of QM class.
The human cost is determined by calculating the vague risk trade-off, or the willingness to pay to avoid fatalities. Okay, assuming you have infinite funds and death is imminent, what would you pay to avoid this?
An infinite amount.
Right. And what would you pay to avoid being eaten alive by a goat?
That's ridiculous. That never happened, so I'll take my chances.
Exactly. Based on the risk to your life you will, sometimes subconsciously, put a cost value to eliminate this risk. And the table shows current value of life is approximately £1.7 million. Rune Elvik calculated the value of life at £1.7 million using a sophisticated meta-analysis based on estimates from a bunch of experts. In total, Elvik estimates that the annual cost of fatalities plus casualties will be £62.4 million.
To make that figure real, 1.7 million at a discount rate of 2% equates to paying for an MBA CAS for the next 198 years.
287 million in projected benefits to the economy versus 62 million in projected casualties. I guess it makes economic sense to raise the speed limit.
but there are some flaws to Philip Hammond's proposed benefits. 1. The environmental costs are not included. 2. he hasn't accounted for the additional cost of implementing this.
And most importantly, I'm not convinced by the government estimates of time saved. Every minute per hour lost to traffic congestion cost the UK economy £137 million, as people stuck in traffic aren't as productive.
The 4.1 minutes saved does not take into account those drivers already going above the limit. Let's ask Professor Ben Hedeker for his views on journey time.
When the traffic's heavy, it's the presence of other vehicles that limits drivers' speeds. So drivers might wish to go faster, but they can't because there's other traffic in front.
So, the 4.1 minutes in savings that Philip Hammond mentioned is a bit of an exaggeration?
It appears so. In Sweden, the government have an initiative called Vision Zero, which makes avoiding death and injury an absolute priority. What if we adopted a similar outlook? Say, a 60 mph speed limit. I thought I'd have a look at the economic ramifications of such a move. Well, on the plus side, there would be 94 fewer lives lost every year on the motorway. There would be a decrease of about 371 serious injuries and an emissions reduction of about 20%. But, most importantly, journey times would increase by about 7 minutes every hour, and this equates to about a loss of £1 billion to the UK economy.
So what now?
Do nothing. Journey times are determined by average speed, not maximum speed. So changing the limit from 70 to 80 will have little or no effect because cars travelling at higher speeds are more likely to trigger stop-start cycles, increasing journey times. This is known as the accordion effect.
What do you suggest then?
Let's ask the Stig.
Some say he has scales instead of skin. Others say he speaks in a tone that only James can hear. It's the Stig.
So, Mr. Stig, in terms of business economics, do you agree that keeping the speed limit at 70 is the best option?
As the Stig has so eloquently put it, the focus should be on easing congestion through infrastructure improvements such as smart motorways. When fully deployed, and if current results are uniform across the network, we could see a reduction of about 20% in journey times. By simple proportions, this would equate to a significant time saving.
So there we have it. We can have the best of both worlds, fast and safe. And on that bombshell, good night everyone.